for inviting me. As he said, I work for VDAX. I'm in our Office of Domestic Marketing. And what domestic marketing is marketing, or I like to say agricultural specialists that are located throughout the Commonwealth. So we have 6 specialists and we all live within the region that we cover. So we have designated counties that we cover, and then we also have crops that we are designated to cover. And so forever, tobacco has been the crop for Southside, which is my territory, Southside, Virginia. And then in 2019, a lot of tobacco growers started growing industrial hemp. And so industrial hemp kind of got added to my plate. And so if you're in Virginia somewhere, you have one of me that represents you. And if you ever need that, my contact information is at the end. And so I'm going to get started. And my presentation, I'll probably move through pretty quickly. So Erin can have lots of questions for her presentation. And this farm that's in the title slide is in Halifax County. So this was in Virgilina is where this was taken. And this is a 2020 field. And so I'm going to get started with the production update. And then at the end, I'll also have an update. That is driving me crazy. Okay. So then I'll have an update on where I think maybe we'll be in 2021, even though I think it's a little early, but anyway, I've got some ideas. So 2020, industrial hemp registered growers and acres. And so all of the data that I'll show you in this presentation comes from the planting reports that the growers submitted. So in 2020, 548 registered growers submitted planting reports, and maybe they planted 1 plant or a greenhouse or 2 acres or 100 acres. This is where this information comes from that the growers send to Richmond, and then Nakia, our industrial hemp coordinator, and of course Erin, plug all of this information into a database and or a spreadsheet, and then I go through it at the end of the year and pull out these numbers. So 548 growers submitting planting reports in 2020. And so that was 50% of the total registered growers. And we have a rolling application period. So every time we tell you how many registrations there are, it's a snapshot in time. So at the time that this was collected, there was 1,091 registered growers. And so about 50% of those actually submitted a planting report. So about half actually planted some hemp. And so then we had 2,206 acres is what we totaled out as in 2020. And this is indoor and outdoor with square footage being, converted to acres. So we just use with one, just deal with 1 unit. And this is compared to about 2,200 acres in 2019, which it looks like we just stayed flat. And so I was expecting last year, I think I told people when they asked me, I said, I think we'll see a big reduction. We'll be down to about 1,100 or 1,200 acres based on what I was hearing from different companies and what their intentions were for acreage. And then we ended up right where we were in 2019, but that's because we had one large planting in one county that you'll see in the data moving forward. And then I also went through and pulled out the varieties. So I counted about 245 different varieties that people reported for CBD, and then about 10 CBG varieties and about 11 fiber and grain varieties. And I put those together because I think there was only maybe 1 or 2 grain varieties, if that. All right, so this is a heat map that I put together so you can kind of see, obviously the darker colored counties had the most hemp, and then the lighter ones are less. And then the key here is on the left. So you'll see that county that I was talking about in the really dark green, that's Orange County. And I just put in 300 plus acres, but they had over 800. And then Mecklenburg was number 2 in the state with a little over 200 acres. And then you'll see how it's kind of clustered. So you have this South Side cluster, which is mostly contracted with a processor that we have in Halifax, and there were a couple of other ones, but not as big as the Halifax processor. Then, of course, we have a processor over in Southwest Virginia for extracts in, I believe, Russell County. I think that's right. And then we have an industrial hemp for fiber processor in Wythe County. So there's another cluster there. And then, of course, in Shenandoah in the Valley, we have a processor up there. And so it just seems to be that all the acres obviously are clustered around where these processors are, as they should be. And so I talked earlier about the Office of Domestic Marketing that I work in. We break the state down into 6 regions. So that's what I did. I used our definition of the regions to break down the counties. And, you know, because everybody has a different definition for how to break the state up. So, and I did it in order of the most acreage down to the least by region. So this is Northwest, which includes Northern Virginia, you know, the Central Virginia, the Charlottesville area, and then the Shenandoah Valley. We had a total of 1,027 acres in that region alone. And you'll see orange with over 800 acres there. And then all the other localities, you know, Charlottesville City and all of the counties are listed there. And if anybody has, you know, if you want this presentation just to look through a little more thoroughly, or if you want some information maybe that we can give you that you don't see here, just let me know, and I'll make sure to send that to you. So the top 5 Northwest counties, or Northwest localities, sorry. Number 1, Orange; 2, Rockingham; Loudoun, Warren, and Fauquier County. The number 2 was Southwest Virginia. And so you'll see number 1 there was Washington, with Russell, Montgomery, and Tazewell. And, you know, Montgomery has a lot of CBD production there, with mostly fiber acreage. And I broke out the fiber. You'll see that later. Then, of course, that extraction facility in Southwest Virginia, I think, accounted for, you know, the Russell acreage and Tazewell and Washington in those areas. Okay. Number 3, Southside Virginia. So in 2019, we've come a long way, because in 2019, Southside grew 62% of that 2,200 acres that I told you that we had in 2019. And this year we were down to about a quarter of the acreage. And so number 1 in my area, Southside, Mecklenburg, Pittsylvania, Halifax, Lunenburg, and Amelia. And so there's Mecklenburg, 205 acres there. And the total for my region, 419 acres. And then then we've got Southeast Virginia, Brunswick, obviously the big production county in that area, 113.98 acres. Northeast. So Northeast is sort of like Northern Neck. And they only had 79, between all of those counties, 79 acres. But, you know, there's a lot of grain production in this area. To my knowledge, I don't know that there is a large processor in that area either. So that might be the acreage follows the processors. And then we have the Eastern Shore, which only had 14 acres, but of course that's only, you know, just a few counties there. And it was easy to rank these: Northampton, Virginia Beach, Accomack, Chesapeake, and Portsmouth. Okay. So here's the 2020 fiber and grain acres that were reported. So you'll see with there, 166 of their acres was fiber. I put grain, but it really wasn't. Most of this all was fiber acreage. And then, so the fiber and the grain represents only 9% of the acres that were reported planted last year. So we're looking at 195 acres total, 46,000 square feet. And there is a processor, you know, as I said, in Wythe County. And then if you were on early enough, Dr. Fike mentioned one that should be coming to Danville. So we'll have a fiber processor in Southside, probably not for another year or so, but that is the plan. So looking ahead to 2021, I think there will be another big reduction in acreage, well, I said that last year and we remained flat on total acres for the state, but theoretically we had a reduction. So this year, I think we'll see more soybeans planted. Definitely, we're going to have a lot more tobacco acreage than we've had the past couple of years. And then I have a lot of growers just in Southside that are expanding into produce. So I have one operation that is basically doubling their footprint in produce acreage to bring in more farmers and expand their footprint. And so that's going to take up, not only, it's going to take up tobacco acreage or definitely it's going to take up some hemp acreage, I think. The decline in the extract prices, the final product, the bulk oils, that has been on a decline for months and months. And then it kind of flattened out. And I think in the last month, I think I saw that there was yet another decline. And then one of the processors actually reported to their growers, the price has declined again. So we're not sure when we will actually extract the oils and make a sale, because, nobody wants to make a sale when it's rock bottom. So hopefully some things will happen that will increase those prices and, ultimately help the growers that grew that hemp. Some growers are still holding on to biomass from 2019. Some are holding on to it from 2020, and a lot are still waiting on payments from 2019 and 2020. So, how many times do you grow something and you're still waiting to get paid? So the growers' appetite for risk is really declining. And some of them, they just said after 2019, they said, no, I'm not doing anything in 2020. And some of them gave it a couple of years. And then now they're saying, no, I'm not going to do it. Or they're reducing their acreage significantly. So they just sort of stay in the game in 2021 and see what happens. And then there may be a future transition away from floral hemp. We've got, I know we're supposed to get a processor in Southside for fiber. And then now we've got one in the Valley that's trying to contract for fiber. And then we have one in Southwest. So, and the logistics for the fiber processing facilities, you can only be so many miles away before it doesn't make economic sense to grow that fiber and to, transport it to the processing facility. But I made an example here of this decrease. 6 different growers that I have talked to probably over the last week, most of them this week. The processor in Southside is signing contracts this week and next week. So everybody's having to make their final decisions of what they're going to do. So you'll see here, this is 6 growers from 5 counties. And this is what those growers did in 19, 20, and 21. And you'll see in 2019, and I just picked these randomly, just thought of some people that I had talked to. So 2019, a little over 72 acres, 2020, a little over 72 acres, 2021, 13 acres. So most of my growers in Southside have said, I'm going to do an acre or 2 or 3, and then some of them are not going to do any at all. This is why I think that maybe a lot of the other parts of the state are going to follow suit, but it's still kind of early. Like I said, our main contractor here is signing contracts now and next week. So usually final decisions aren't made until like the end of April is the way it's been the past couple of years. So I don't expect this year to be any different. And let's see. And so here, I know Erin will have her contact information up on her presentation, and Nikia's our industrial hemp coordinator. For those of you that don't know, Nikia replaced Jasmine Harwell towards the end of last year. Then my contact information, and this is our, then I also included the Plant Industry Services, the website, the hemp website that we have. And with that, does anybody have any questions?